Deb from Potions and Pots, and today I want to teach you about wild foraging. Now, I'm sorry it's a little shaky. I'm in my golf cart, and what I want to teach you today is if you just open your door, take a walk in the woods. This is up at our lake in New Hampshire, and into the forest we go, and look around, and there's so many plants that are natural to the areas. And once you find them and identify them, and what I like to think is the plants come to you. So if there's a need in your life, no matter what it might be, allergies, dermatitis, whatever, if there's a need in your life, Mother Nature listens, and what she does is brings the plants to you. And your job is to find them, make sure that you've got the right plant, and learn what to do with that plant to help your body. And there are so many options. And the good thing is one plant can sometimes be used for 5 different things. You may find that it works for something in your life, and another person will find, oh no, I don't use it that way, I use it this way. Whatever the case may be, as you learn about the herbs and what Mother Nature has to offer to us, and if you listen to the plants, they will come to you. You find them, you locate them, you identify them, and then find out what you can do with them. The first thing I want to tell you though is be frugal with your harvesting. Don't take more than what you need. Never ever take more than 10% of a plant unless there's fields and fields of it, and then you could take up to 20, maybe 25%. But if you understand that if you take too much, it might not come back next year, and you might need that particular plant for a particular medicine, and it's not going to be there for you. So what you want to do is think about what you're going to use this plant for, and make sure you don't take anything more than what you need. This way you can be sure that next year that plant's going to be there for you. So I've taken some pictures, some still pictures that I'll insert into the video so that you can have a little bit of a better identification, and I'll explain certain things and identifying markers and things like that of common plants that grow right around you, oftentimes right outside your door. One of the first ones that is really common and just about everybody has everywhere is called plantain. Now, you might know plantain as a noxious weed when you're just always pulling them out. They seem to be in the driveway, they seem to be in the cracks in the sidewalk, but really they're there, and they're so obvious because they're asking you to please learn what I am and how I can help you. So the first thing is you want to identify a plantain. One of the probably the easiest identifying marker is the fact that it has threads in it when you pull the leaves. And I'll show you that. Plantain is wonderful. It is, I use it for my world famous boo-boo cream. And that cream is absolutely, it's priceless. You can use it for cuts, scratches, abrasions, splinters, minor burns, scrapes. If you happen to brush by a nettle bush and you got stung, well, again, you would be able to put a little bit of that BB cream on that little sting. It's also really good for hot spots on dogs. Another name for plantain is called Englishman's foot or white man's footsteps. This plantain has been known for the Native Americans right from the dawn of time. It has a cousin that you might be familiar with, psyllium, like psyllium fiber that we put in breads and things like that. That's one of its cousins. The Latin name for plantain is Plantago. And it is, like I say, readily available out your door. Herbally, it's effective for like minor cuts and scratches and um, scrapes, splinters, minor burns. If you brushed up against a nettle bush and got a sting, that's good for that. It's also even good for dogs can use it. You can use it on dogs for like hot spots. If you make that salve, it's very soothing. It is considered antimicrobial in the herbal world. And one thing, a really cool thing you can learn about plantain, and I've always taught my kids this and now my grandchildren. If you were out walking in the woods and you got a bee sting or an ant sting, or like I say, you scratched yourself, if you know where plantain is, you can pick a leaf, put it in your mouth, chew it up. It mixes with your saliva, and all the enzymes in your saliva break it down and react with the chemicals in the plantain, and you could take that out as a little poultice, or it's also been known as a band-aid, and you put it like over the sting, or put it over the bite, or put it over the itchy or the scratch, and relief is almost instantaneous. It there you can I've even heard of people that they're out in the woods, they have tape or band-aids. They'll find a piece of plantain, chew it up, put it under the band-aid, put the band-aid over it, because of the really cool properties that are in plantain. It's generally regarded as safe if you see something on a label that says GRAS all in capital letters, that's what that means. It's generally regarded safe for all. And hardly anyone. I don't know personally. I've never met a person that had any kind of a reaction to plantain or my BB cream for that matter. So let me, without stalling, let me wander over and we will go to the nearby patch of plantain, because there are some very identifying features, because it's really, really important if you're going to stop making medicines, things that are going to put either on your body or in your body, you better be sure you know what you're working with, because there are some things that first off just won't work for what your intention is. Secondly, could make you tummy upset. There are some toxic things out there that you would never use, but for the most part, Mother Nature is considerate, and she's wanting you to learn the ways of her world. So I'm going to shut it off right now and go over to the patch, and I'll show you. We'll pick up from there. Okay, here we go. We're looking for some plantain, and here's a perfect example of plantain just growing along a rock path. And one thing I told you about this very, very identifying about plantain is that when you break a leaf off, you will find a very, very fine thread. Can you see that thread? You see that? That is the identifying feature. You see that? That's the identifying feature of a plantain. And interestingly enough, jackpot, you see this little critter? That is called a tussock. That is a caterpillar that turns into a tussock moth. Now up here in the woods, we have a lot of problems with these they're pretty. This one's just a baby, but it's going to get a lot more fuzzy. And they're actually kind of pretty, because when they fuzz out, they're really, he's just starting. He's a newbie. And he is feasting on the plantain leaf, if you can say that. And he has, if you touch him, you see how those spines that stick way far out of the back of his body? Those little buggers cause a most uncomfortable rash. And people up here in the woods spend hundreds of dollars going to the doctor and getting medicine to help get rid of that extremely itchy, initially painful rash. And I actually, a couple of years ago, my own husband suffered from this. He happened to pick one up, and he was on his shirt, and it actually went through the shirt and got onto his belly, and he had a horrible rash. And I tried everything I opened up my bag of tricks, and I wasn't finding anything that could help him. So what I did is I said, I gotta hit the books. There's gotta be something here. And once again, if you remember what I said, Mother Nature hears your needs and she responds. And I had to find some jewelweed, and so I hurried up and I looked to see, what does jewelweed look like anyway? Walked out my door, bushes and bushes of pretty little orangey yellow flowers that I had no idea was jewelweed. So I learned something that day. So okay, we've digressed. We're talking about plantain, but this was a perfect learning opportunity. So let's get back to the plantain. You can see, and I'm going to be real careful not to touch my little buddy here. You can see on here, this is the seed. So this year will ensure that next year we'll have another crop of plantain. And if you look up the path here, here's another one. Again, the identifying feature. Doesn't matter how small the leaf is. The identifying feature is, see that thread? Now you've got a plantain leaf. And typically, these are so prolific. I'm going to probably collect a good lot of them because I usually make an infusion with them, and we'll have and the next video will be on infusions. But right now I just want to identify common plants and what you can do with them. So I'm going to close this video and I'm going to start harvesting, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so now that we have got our plantain leaves in, we're going to pick up and explain what we do from this point on. And remembering the goal of the plantain leaf is that it will be part of an infusion that I make my wings and stings with, okay, which is a salve that I carry. And you can always go on my site. It's www.potionsandpots.com, and it lists some of the things that I have currently in stock. It won't show everything because, again, it's a seasonal. My products are seasonal. They're regional, and so they'll keep checking back because there'll always be new things added as some things are phased out. But right now, you'll see on the site I have teas and salves. I have soaps. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, my CBD hemp oil, and I got videos also on there to show you. To go to YouTube and maybe get a little more information on any question that you might have. But anyway, we're going to recap what we did today, and we talked about number 1, wild foraging, and how to do that sustainably and ethically, not to take more than 10% of a plant if it is a small area, up to 25 if you have a vast field. Give gratitude to Mother Nature for taking these living beings, because everything has energy, and they are willing to sacrifice and be there for us. And as I think I mentioned earlier, Mother Nature tends to bring into your environment what you need. And these plants are just begging for you to find out who they are and how they can help you and put them into your life. And as far as my concern, I have my own apothecary, so I immediately go from this stage, from picking them and out in the fields, or if I actually order, there are a lot of things that are not indigenous to this area, so I have to find a source. And eventually I'll do a video on really good sources to find whatever to meet your needs for whatever your objectives are. But for me, I try to keep things locally, and I bring it almost like from farm to table kind of thing. Well, this is from the ground to my end product, and I do that in my apothecary. So we're going to go through step by step on how we do all that. But recouping today, we've learned how to wild forage with respect to Mother Nature. The second thing we learned today, we talked about plantain, common roadside, backyard, driveway, fence wall herb that's growing real prolifically everywhere, pretty much throughout the whole United States. So again, let's just say thank you to plantain, and just to recoup, remember how to identify with the little hairs. All right, so now we've done that. We've gathered our plantain. What's the next step? The next step is wilting. And the reason we want to wilt is because if this plant were to be washed, and that's a personal choice, whether you want to wash or not. Some people, they'll wash everything and then dry them. Some people, me in particular, these came from nature's soil. these herbs are part of that soil. We are part of that soil. And I know in my area, it's as pure as it's going to get. So I don't feel the need to have to wash these. If they were muddy, yeah, of course I would. But for a little bit of dust, and if it's really bad, I have a little soft bristle brush, and you just you brush the leaf off. But I don't think it was necessary on these. You might find some grit from the dusty sand powder, but I'm not concerned about that. And the reason I'm not concerned about that is because from this step, my infusions are temperature created. All right, so I would take these leaves, and we're going to go into infusions. This will become an oil infusion. This particular oil infusion will actually be put in the oven for about at 200 degrees. And we'll get more into the specifics of that. I just want to first show you how to do all this stuff. You get to this step. You've got your leaves. You bring them in. You have to wilt them. And the reason is we want to get as much wet out of there, because what happens in a wet environment? Things like to grow. Bacteria likes to grow. Mold likes to grow. Fungus likes to grow. I'm trying to keep those things out of my end stage product. So wilting ensures that there's the first stage of getting rid of the wet, the moisture. So I will just take them, and again, just dust off your leaves and lay them on on a dry paper towel. And this is, at this time of year in my house, thank God I have lots of counters. My counters are always full of leaves. Anybody comes in at any given time and they'll go, "What are you making now?" So from today forward, there will always be something drying and wilting on my counters until probably the end of October. That's probably when I finish up my harvesting for the year. So I leave them right here because in our cottage, we have the benefit of, we do have an AC, one of the wall units, so it stays nice and dry in here. And once you pick a leaf, the three enemies of that leaf is moisture and light, and sometimes the wind can also adversely affect them. So in here, this is a more controlled environment. They're staying clean. They are moisture controlled as they're going through their first process. So that's all what I do. And then just as my own personal, and again, we'll have future videos on that, I am totally a crystal person, and I feel the energy in all crystals. So I like to just kind of put the goodness and make a quadrant here of raising the vibration of the stress, because when you pick something from the original plant, it is now stressed. The plant is stressed. That's why I give gratitude to Mother Nature when I take from her. But then I go one step further and treat what I take respectably. And keeping the vibration level up with my crystals, like for instance, this is a labradorite crystal. This is hematite. I'm sure you're familiar with hematite. And pneumite, probably the oldest rock on the planet. And of course, I have a terminated generator clear quartz. And then I like to, in the very center of my quadrants, I love my green calcite. Green calcite goes everywhere with me. So I've now increased the vibrational area and the energy of these living, or formerly living, leaves, and it's respectful. When I do this, I just know that my end product has had all the best I can give it. So I want a quality product, and I want Mother Nature to take my quality product and so that I can put it to good use. So it's all it's integral, it's all together, and when you're a woman of the woods, you're very sensitive to these kinds of things. So that's going to pretty much wrap up today on a plantain. And I think the next video is I started and touched a little bit on jewelweed, because while I was actually harvesting plantain leaves, if you remember, the little caterpillar that was on that was the caterpillar that turns into the white tussock moth. and causes havoc with anyone that touches it. If you remember from the video, the little spiny things, yeah, you'll get a rash if you touch them. So it's just, I think the natural will just move right from plantain, we'll move into jewelweed. And I thank you so much for being here with me today. And I ask that if you please give me a like and subscribe to my channel, and so that you can keep learning with me. And the green blessings of Mother Nature can be passed on to you and your family. So that's it for today from Potions and Pots. We'll talk to you later. Be watching for the next video. Bye-bye.